देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयोश्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः. Again and again I offer prostrations at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna and Mother Sharda Devi. Sri Ramakrishna believed, which we can see from the Gospel, that prayer is very effective. How to pray is what ordinary person does not understand. They say prayer is not begging for something. It's not asking for something. It's not begging for something. That's not prayer. That is something else. That's slavery. Asking for this and that. It's a beggar's job, not a bhakta's duty. Bhakta, if he loves God, will believe that he will be bestowed upon everything that he needs at the proper time by the loving Lord. He places himself at the feet of the Lord to be dealt with in the way that he likes by him. He considers himself and his life as an offering. Whatever he does is in a sense of prayer. All that I have done till now in my life, O Lord, all that I am doing now, and all that I will be doing hereafter, I offer at thy feet. Please accept them. Please gracious enough to accept them as my offering. I don't know how to do offering. I'm very crude. I'm very rude. I'm very rough. The soft and gentle way and humbly how to offer myself fully at thy feet, which I do wish really, sincerely. I don't know. So please manipulate it in your own way and accept it as my offering. Extreme sincerity is behind that. This is not pretension. I am admitting with humility that I don't know how to offer myself. I do wish. So the real bhakta does not ask for anything. He knows that God loves him so much that whatever he needs will be given at the proper time, in the proper way. He waits. Infinite purity, infinite patience, and infinite perseverance are the three necessary for a good cause, says Swamiji. Infinite purity, with no selfishness blackening the heart, with a pure heart full of sincerity, with no pretension. Infinite patience, wait, till grace comes. He knows better and more than me when I need help and in what way. He will bestow it on me, that faith and infinite perseverance. I will not budge an inch from the path. Setbacks may come, will come, are sure to come. But that won't put me off. I will persist and persist and persist. There's a German saying that perseverance is the twin sister of excellence. Perseverance is the twin sister of excellence. One is a question of effort. The other is a question of time. Perseverance is a twin sister of excellence. Excellent result will come if I persist. One is a question of effort. I persist with force, with determination. And in time, excellent result will come, has to come. Life is full of struggles, but don't be a beggar. Whatever we beg for will be given. You may have heard of the story of the yogi in the Himalayas, a young man. He was doing intense tapas. But for his food, he had to come down to the village from his cave, beg for food, and then climb up. As days went by and the climate changed, it became hard for him to come down and climb up. So one day he prayed, "Oh Lord," for a long time he prayed, "Oh Lord, please provide me with a horse so that I can ride down and the horse will take me up." In course of time, a contingent of soldiers happened to pass that way. A lady was about to give birth to a baby. So a baby horse, a foal, was born. There's no way of taking it forward. They couldn't leave the foal, the little one, there in the wilderness and go. Then somebody went around and looked and saw this young man, hefty young man, sitting there. So he came back to the commander and said, "There's a young man there sitting quietly. Call him." So he came and the commander asked him, "You carry this foal and follow us." He had to, because there were fierce soldiers. So he took the horse, the foal, and began to follow the army group. On the way he said, "Oh Ram, you misunderstood my prayer. I asked for a horse to carry me, but I did not ask for a horse for me to carry." So the prayer was sanctioned, granted, but in the way that he likes. So don't put conditions in your prayer before the Lord. In another instance, a lady I knew was very generous to a fault. She belonged to a very rich, high family. They had big, large farms, and paddy would be harvested and brought to their courtyard. The village women would come and thresh it and separate the paddy grains from the straw. All this was done on large mats of bamboo. All the paddy seeds which went through the holes of the bamboo and went into the dust belonged to the village women. Those which were on the top of the bamboo mat could be carried to the ladder. So when in the evening everything was over and they folded the bamboo, there was a lot of grains fallen on the dust, gone through the holes. When they were collecting them, this girl, this lady, when she was a little girl of 8, would buy it from them, paddy from their own family property. She would buy it from them and had it properly made into rice and give all the beggars who came to the house. She would have her breakfast at 11, thinking somebody would come. Her lunch at 4 o'clock, thinking somebody would come. And her dinner at 11 o'clock at night. She would give a part of her dinner to the poor man who would be coming hungry. In this way, she spent her whole life. In her late 60s, she got paralysis of the right hand side. When one of our sannyasis visited her, this lady asked her, "My dear girl, why did this happen to me? Using this right hand, I have helped hundreds and hundreds of poor people, fed them. Now I can't eat myself with this hand. Somebody has to feed me." Then our sannyasini told her, Grandma, there's a reason. Those poor people who had come to you hungry had to be hungry because of the result of their bad deeds done before. Now, you relieved them of their hunger. That means that much of their bad karma you took. Instead of leaving to them or with them, you took. So the accumulated amount of the bad karmas you had collected from them is coming out as this paralysis. Oh, is it so? That's all right. She was happy. But she said, I have got one prayer. That's the important part of the story. Not story, it actually happened. I would lie sick for 3 days at least, so that all the people whom I have helped and who love me can find time to come and see me. And what happened was, she lay there sick for 3 years. So when I went to see her, I said, Grandma, don't pray. God granted half of your prayer, 3. But instead of 3 days, it was 3 years. So don't pray. Just put yourself at His mercy. He will never harm you. He will never hurt you. Swami Vivekananda says, you will get what you deserve, nothing more, nothing less. The second part is important. You will get what you deserve, nothing more, nothing less. So we don't have to put conditions in front of the Lord. He is a better mathematician than us. He knows how to calculate. Don't calculate. Don't plan. He knows better. Just place ourselves under His care. He will look after us. You may have heard of the story. A man got stranded on an island because of a shipwreck. Now he had read in his childhood that those who rely on God will be helped by Him. God has said that. I'll help those who take refuge in me. So he sat there, perfectly sure that God will come and help him. The people on the mainland understood that there was a shipwreck and one man had been saved and he is stranded on that island. They sent a ship. The ship waited at a distance and they sent a boat. The ship sent a boat to pick him up. When the boat came, he said, no, I won't go with you. God should come. He promised. God will come, then I'll go. So the ship went back and a helicopter came and tried to pick him up. He said, no, you go. I'll go only with God. Then an aeroplane came and parachuted to the island. No, he won't go. God should come. By that time it was evening. Night was coming. And he began to feel bad. So he complained to God. You are breaking your promise. I have been completely, absolutely, 100% relying on you. And you didn't come. Then he heard a voice from his heart. Foolish, stupid man. I sent a boat to help you. You didn't go. I sent a helicopter. You didn't go. I sent an aeroplane. You didn't go. So in which way God sends help? We don't know. Our heart is so small. We can't measure His infinite grace. He just put ourselves at His disposal to be dispensed with as He likes. That's the best for us. Nothing is better for us. Because He is infinite. He is infinity. He can see into our past. He can see into our future. He can see everything around us. There's nothing hidden from Him. He will not miss anything. He will not forget anything. He is always plus, never minus. But that depends upon faith. In English, there are 3 words almost similar. Trust, believe, faith. Almost similar. Trust, belief, faith. There's a bit of difference between them. Suppose I am ill. I come to a new place and I fall sick. A friend of mine whom I trust suggested a doctor. Trusting him and believing that this doctor would cure me, I go to him. And then, fortunately, I am cured of my sickness. I have been suffering very much. I get cured. I am very happy. Another friend of mine heard of my story. You stupid man. Will anybody under the sun go to that doctor? He's a quack. Why did you go to him? And I'd say I had experience. I became good. Now even if the whole world says that that doctor is no good, I will not believe. This is called faith. Trust is based on our intellectual understanding of the person. Belief is based on closer friendship. Reasoned by belief and seasoned by experience. Once you experience, you won't believe anybody under the sun against that. So my experience has added power to my belief. With belief I went and I talked to the doctor. I felt happy. I felt half relieved. You know, doctors could be here. The doctors, if they are listening patiently, the patient feels a great lot of relief. Patient listening from the doctor relieves the patient a lot. Their belief immediately comes. But faith will come only after that person, the patient, gets experience of getting cured by this doctor. Have faith in God, unflinching faith. Even if the whole world stands against you, never be shaken. Only then you will be able to experience the love of God, the grace of God. Faith is absolutely necessary. Holy Mother says, when you do japa and meditation or pray, have faith. in the fact that God listens to me. When in the Gita, Sri Krishna showed his universal form to Arjuna, Arjuna was flabbergasted, stunned. He could not see the figure properly. In order to understand him, he wanted to start from one part of the Lord's body. So he looked for the nose. From that, we can just delineate the rest of the body. In the Padmanabha temple in Trivandrum, they don't use electric light. This flickering coconut oil flames are there. In that, you have to see the dark form of the Lord. In most of the other temples, they apply chandan, sandalwood, on the black image of the deity, but not there. Then how to discern, how to find out the outlines of the form? They have put a jasmine mala on the forehead. Then you are asked to look at that and start downwards towards the right. Then if you look closely, you can see the nose, and then afterwards the chin, and afterwards you come slowly here, and then in the navel you can see the lotus and Brahma sitting there. Like that you go, and then later you will come at the feet, where also they have put 2 jasmine malas. So we have to start from somewhere, otherwise it's all dark. Now God is everywhere. So Arjuna could not understand. Anega bahudara vatram netram. That is the hand or arm. I'll start from there. He looked everywhere, arms, only arms. Anega bahudaram. Then I'll start from the stomach, tummy, this way to the feet and that way to the head. Only tummy everywhere, just think of that. Lord's stomach everywhere. He was puzzled. He could not understand. What he wanted to see, he was seeing, remember. There was no tummy there. There was no stomach there. He wanted to see the Lord's stomach and he saw. In prayer it is like that. What we want to see about the Lord, you will see. If I have got absolute faith in me, then I will see reality. If I have a little doubt, I will see shadow. Prayer is very, very important. But remember, be aware of what you pray for. Half of it, as I told you through the 2 stories, half of it will be granted. Which half he will decide. That's the trouble. 3 was granted, and instead of 3 days, 3 years she had to suffer. So I told her, don't pray for anything. Half of it will be granted, but which half he will decide. So in prayer, it should be unselfish. Like the mother who looks after the baby. It's a privilege for her to look after the baby, nurse the baby. The baby will resist. The baby will kick. All that is a pleasure. The mother doesn't expect anything in return. Bhakti is always one-way traffic, remember. I love loving God. That's called bhakti. I love loving God. And in our order, we all wish and try to love Holy Mother and Sri Ramakrishna, Swamiji. But we can't see them. But we want to love them. How do we do that? We try to love everyone in the order. They will have many blemishes and faults. If we want to see them, I used to think, I'm telling you the truth, I'm having many peculiarities in my character. I know that. I'm a very difficult person to live with. And these people are tolerating me. So can't I tolerate them? I know I'm a very difficult person. I'm not perfect. I have got my demands, I have got my conditions, I have got my expectations, I have got so many other peculiarities. But they are all tolerating me. Can't I tolerate them? Am I different from them, or higher from them, or greater from them? No. We all came in the name of Holy Mother and Sri Ramakrishna. I used to tell my girls whenever I met in any center, remember, Swami Vivekananda came to our homes, walked around, looked at every member in the family, and then when he came to me, this is my girl. He touched here. The sense of the touch is still here. Then the idea of joining came into my head. As Jesus Christ said, you are chosen by Him. You didn't choose Him. So we were chosen. Be true to His election. He selected us. Be true to that. Prove that His election did not go wrong. He did the right thing, the right selection. Then He can love everyone. Everyone had been selected by them. There's no difficulty. But we have to expand that into the lives of other devotees also. All those who come to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother and Swamiji, to our ashrams, are loved by us. We love them. We love you all. Even if you want or not, we can't help it. They brought you. We had no hand in that. It's not because of us that you came. They selected you. Swamiji came to your homes. He selected you also. According to your capacity, according to your convenience, you will serve them in the form of service to the organization. Were you not selected? Are you not selected ones? Of course you are. So you belong to us. What a great joy in loving the world. Just think of that. I love everyone. Just feel like that. What a joy. What a sense of greatness. You walk in the air. You float on the top of the ocean. You are full of joy. Difficulties will come. But I have got friends. I have got great hearts loving me because I love them. As I said the other day, science says, Vedanta has said that long ago, the mind will get from the world only that which the mind has put into it. Jesus was writhing in agony on the top of the cross. The people were howling for His blood. The same people who 2 days previously knelt and crept along the rough road in order to touch the hem of his shirt, of his coat. They knelt on their knees, they crept towards Him in order to touch His coat, His robe. Those same people became transformed into the form of wolves They were howling for his blood. From there, pain was killing him. The nail was here, in many parts, and because of the weight of his body, the body was hanging like this. And the more the body came forward, the more the pain was wrenching his body into pieces. In the midst of that, he prayed, "Oh Lord, they don't know. Please forgive them." Napoleon later, many centuries later, exclaimed one day, he tried to become the emperor of France. He tried to conquer the whole of Europe. He went to Egypt, and there he made a mistake. The British naval force defeated him. As long as Napoleon lived, Europe did not sleep, says history. As long as Napoleon lived, one man, Europe did not sleep. So powerful he was. Still, one day he was defeated and he was banished onto an island, Elba. There, he did not have anything to do. So he was looking up towards this life and through history. And he said, 4 of us, great kings, Alexander, Peter, Charlemagne and myself, created history, turned the whole world upside down, using our power. And who remembers us today? Who loves us today? Jesus also created an empire. We did it with the help of the sword. He did it with the help of love. Now half the world is ready to sacrifice their life for him, because he gave love, and he gets love even today after so many centuries. So what you give to the world, it will be given back. You give love to the Lord, love will be given back. People love singing bhajans. I was invited for a bhajan group of a certain set of devotees one day, and there when I gave, and people were singing, banging this thing loudly, and all were following. Writing board there. If you want to sing, you write your name and say what you want to sing. The board was almost full, and still newcomers were writing their names. I thought to myself, yes, they all want to sing. Why? They are so much in love with their own voice that they want to hear that. Do you think that everybody was singing there out of intense love for God? Just intense love for their own voice. Now I will sing. What's behind that? Tukaram was one day doing Ram Nam in a hired hall. The devotees had hired the hall. Throughout the night, he held bhajans. After some time, after about 12 o'clock, he got so much into ecstatic mood that all singing stopped, and he was chanting only Ram, 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 Ram. One by one, the people from the audience got up and left. Early in the morning, he opened his eyes and the whole hall was empty except for one man. He sat there dozing in one corner. But Tukaram told him, "My good man, you are so good." "What good man?" he said. "I'm waiting." When the love of God is there, what you sing is not important. He could not enjoy the love of God and remain there on a higher level. then the raga and the meaning, everything disappears. You can call it by any name, ecstasy, whatever, bliss, but that is the real crux of prayer. Prayer, Gandhiji said, prayer is not asking, it's a longing of the soul. It's daily admission of one's weakness. It's better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without a heart. A heart without words than words without the heart. Prayer is the attempt at communicating with the Lord. To come into communion with the Lord. In Sydney, once I was in the hospital, and one young doctor asked me, "Will you tell me the secret?" I said, "What secret?" "The secret." I said, "I don't have any secret." "Yes. You don't look your age." I was 80. "You don't look your age. How do you manage that?" I didn't say anything. My secretary, Robert, an Australian, was there. He said, "Perhaps, we don't know, perhaps because of the regularity in her life." "So what do you do, young man?" I said, sometimes we get up 2:30 or 3 o'clock. He was horror struck. "What? 2:30? 3 o'clock?" Perhaps it is at that time that he goes to sleep. I said, "What do you do?" He said, "We have got a program. We meditate, we have reading to do, and so many other disciplines we practice. So we need that time, quiet time." Then he said, "Shall I ask you a question?" I said, "What's that?" "What's the difference between prayer and meditation?" There, those who look after the cancer patients especially are asked to teach meditation to the patients in order to give them the courage and the ability to face the situation. So they were all trying to practice meditation. So what's the difference between prayer and meditation? Suddenly, a sentence that I had read long ago in Swamiji's works, even now I don't remember in which lecture or in which letter I read it. I tried to find out, couldn't. Came to my mind. I said, in prayer, we talk to God. In meditation, we try to listen to His voice. In prayer, we talk to God, but in meditation, we try to listen to His voice. He is always telling us what to do. Arjuna was in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Sri Krishna doesn't come because Arjuna was lecturing. Big lectures. Sri Krishna kept quiet. As soon as Arjuna admitted defeat or helplessness and sank into the chariot, Sri Krishna opened his mouth. So the Lord's voice can be heard only in silence. That's the real prayer. In real prayer, words are not important. Keep the heart clean. In Judaism, in the Jewish religion, they say, my God is a jealous God. My God is a jealous God. He will not share His seat with anything else. He should get it completely for Himself. If we fill the heart with all kinds of desires and demands and complaints and requests, He will not answer. In the Gitanjali, Rabindranath sings in one place, have you not heard his silent steps? He comes, he ever comes. Have you not heard his silent steps? He comes, he ever comes. Silent steps. And in another song he says, you light the lamp of puja in the heart. Pujar pradeep jaliye rakho. He keeps the lamp of puja, that is offering or prayer, in the heart. The Lord is sitting there. His face will become evident. In Hinduism we believe that God is always in the heart. As I said the other day, the heart of man is the seat of God. He's already here. But in Christianity, God has to come into the heart. I had to be in the hospital in Trivandrum in 1973. It's a very major operation. And a young doctor, a surgeon who had helped in the operation, felt very close to me. A large amount of medicine had to be given into the system. And somebody had to sit when drip was being given. Because my veins are very thin, the needle may get loose. So somebody has to be sit there watching it always. This doctor, whenever he felt free, he would come and take over the jars. He would sit there. And towards the end of my stay, he said, Mataji, I am a painter. I would like to show you some of my paintings. I said, all right, bring them. So one day he brought them. They are all modern painting, modern art. In modern art, the painting does not talk to you. You have to find out meaning of the painting. I said, no, I don't want this. The painting should talk to me. I don't have to extract some meaning from the painting. I don't want that. And I'll paint something for you which you like. What do you want? The Trivandrum Center had just been started. And we, as you all know, in our centers, we celebrate Christmas. We did not have a proper picture of Jesus. So I said, paint one for me. He said, Mataji, you get some pictures from the local church. And I will select one and paint one. He did not like any of them, he painted another thing for me. But one of the pictures I liked very much. And in that, Jesus with a stick in his hand is knocking at a door. The door has to be opened. Then I said, the door is the door to our heart. The Lord wants to enter. But he has got a stick. I feel that he should have a broom or a lamp. Either a lamp or a broom. He has cluttered the whole room with all kinds of things, photographs of his grandfather and grandmother and all the king and queen, whatnot. Scenery, furniture, and full of dust. So it has to be cleaned for him to sit. So he should have a broom, otherwise a light. We have kept the whole thing dark. So he has to bring his own light. Later, after many years, we used to say this in my talks on Saturdays in Trivandrum Center. Later, after many years, I came upon an article in the Reader's Digest about this particular painting. An Englishman had painted that. I don't remember his name. He did two similar paintings. Two. One is in St. Paul's Church in London, and one is in a convent in Ireland. Really similar pictures. He showed his painting to his friends. The friends said, excellent painting. but there is one thing you have forgotten. He said, what's that? Before that the painting has got, Jesus has got a lamp in his hand. The name of the painting itself is Jesus with the lamp. Without knowing about that, I used to tell people that he wants to enter with a light. So you have forgotten something, the friend said. What's that? There's no handle for the door. Then the painter said, no, it has to be opened from the inside. We have to open the heart for him to enter. He wants to enter. We have cluttered the whole place with all kinds of undesirable and desirable things. It's dark. But we believe he is already there. Light the lamp of love. Light the lamp of prayer, and his face will become clear. Thank you.